Hello and welcome back to The Locker Room. I'm your host. My name is Jim Carmack, and he is Pastor Jim Locke, hence the name, The Locker Room. He is senior pastor here at Hillcrest Baptist Church in Pensacola, Florida. We like to spend a few minutes with you talking about what we talked about on Sunday. But before we get into it, we need to acknowledge two things. Number one, we've been on a break. We kind of had some time off here a little bit.
It was kind of planned, and yet, you know, it seems like it's been a while.
Yeah.
But you were gone one week.
I was gone.
And then I was gone the next week. And so, yeah, we took a little hiatus while we were coming and going, and now we're kind of all back.
Now we're back. Sorry if we missed you. Sorry if you missed us. We're back, though. But let's talk about where you were, because you had some significant things going on.
Well, last week was the annual meeting of the Florida Baptist Convention. The Baptists are, people who love to get together. And we're known as a cooperative people, and so we cooperate together as a convention of churches, and we do that at the local level through our association, Pensacola Bay Baptist Association. We do that at the state level in what's known as the Florida Baptist Convention, which is around 3,000 Southern Baptist churches in the great state of Florida. And so we have our own state convention and our own state organization. And our Florida Baptist churches partner together to plant churches, and of which we're one of those church planting churches, and to do the work of mission and evangelism. And then, of course, the Southern Baptist Convention, which everybody's familiar with, is the national organization, and that's between 40 and 50,000 churches in the United States. And we have an annual meeting, which is also in Orlando next year in June of 2025, so lots of meetings in Orlando. But this meeting last week was the annual meeting of the State Baptist Convention, the Florida Baptist Convention. And so there was probably, 1,500, 2,000, maybe not quite 2,000, maybe 1,500-ish messengers who were there. Meeting was at First Baptist Church in Orlando. And, Florida's a big state, and normally the location of the meeting changes from year to year. And so, sometimes it'll be in Jacksonville, sometimes in Tampa or Orlando, sometimes it'll be in Fort Lauderdale, maybe even Miami, and sometimes in Pensacola.
Yeah.
That's been the pattern through the years. And part of the challenge with that is when it's in Pensacola, all the people in South Florida moan and groan. When it's in South Florida, all the people in the Panhandle moan and groan. It's a long way from Pensacola to Miami.
Yeah, it's a drive.
And so the convention decided a couple of years ago to do a 3-year trial run where for 3 successive years we hold the annual meeting in Orlando, Florida, at First Baptist Church of Orlando, which is plenty big. To handle the meeting. So this was the second of that 3-year run. So we'll have a meeting, the third of those 3-year meetings of the 3-year tenure. The third year will be next year, and I suppose that probably we'll have to make a decision before that meeting, because at that meeting we'll have to announce where it's going to be for next year. So I don't know if we'll continue to meet in Orlando, if that's a good plan, or if we'll go back to moving it around. But anyway, we were in Orlando, and it was a very good meeting.
Good. So just for clarification, on the global scale or national scale, the Southern Baptist Convention is the largest entity of it. The state convention kind of falls underneath that. But what influence does the state convention have to the national convention? In other words, if decisions are made at the state level, how does that impact on the national scale, or does it?
It does in certain things, like with church planting, for example. I mean, when we participate in what's known as the cooperative program of the Southern Baptist Convention, which means by vote of our church, a certain percentage of our budget goes to national and international missions, church planting, seminary education, Baptist collegiate ministries and Baptist collegiate education, like the Baptist College of Florida. And not all of that money, of course, goes to national causes. So, if we give $100 to the cooperative program, 49% of that $100 or $49 actually stays in the state of Florida.
Okay.
$51 goes on to the Southern Baptist Convention for seminary education, International Mission Board, North American Mission Board, and the like. So our giving is split basically between state and national causes. Mm-hmm. And then there is some partnership between state conventions and the North American Mission Board and the International Mission Board, mm-hmm. particularly to accomplish the work of church planting, because church planting in the United States typically has to take place in a state somewhere.
Yeah.
And so there is a degree of overlap and some revenue sharing that happens. You kind of have to have a calculus degree to understand how all of that works. But yeah, there is cooperation and a degree of overlap between the two. But in my experience, it all works well together.
In agreement.
Mm-hmm.
Now, last week during the convention, there were some elections that took place.
Yes.
Any significant elections that you would like to share with us, Mr. President? Or is it?
Yeah. Well, I'm not. Let me be very clear. I was not elected to be president of the Florida Baptist Convention. That's a different office.
Right.
But I was elected to be president of the Florida Baptist State Board of Missions.
Okay.
Which kind of has oversight of the state convention ministry and mission affairs. It's kind of like the State Board of Missions in Florida functions like a board of directors.
Okay.
You know, and the president of the State Board of Missions function as kind of a chairman of the board.
Okay.
So you could think of it that way. I was elected chairman of the board of the Florida Baptist Convention. Our convention has full-time employees. We have a paid full-time executive director treasurer, and he runs the business of the Florida Baptist Convention, and then there are other employees that work alongside him, and then we have regional catalysts that are paid employees that support the churches of the various regions of the Florida Baptist Convention in the state of Florida. But all of that is kind of overseen by a pretty large board of directors, and I need to know exactly how many.
You'll find out.
But yeah, there's somewhere around 50 or so what we might call trustees or representatives that are on the board. And there are various meetings that take place through the year. Some of those take place in person at Jacksonville. Others of them are digital meetings that take place by Zoom, mm-hmm. Online. So not everybody has to travel to every meeting, but we have 3 in-person meetings a year.
Okay.
One in January, one in February, one in August, and then 2 meetings that take place at the Florida Baptist Convention, wherever it is, in November, at the end of the year. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so congratulations, first of all. That's fantastic. How does that then impact your role at the church? Will that impact you on this local level as pastor at Hillcrest, or not?
Well, it doesn't really come to bear. It does take a little bit of my time, mm-hmm. and so I have some degree of time to allot to that because we have such a gifted and broad and diverse staff who are able to keep the operational progress of Hillcrest going forward, but it won't affect it won't affect me in terms of time in the pulpit.
Okay.
It may affect 2 or 3 Wednesday nights during the year. If we have a Thursday meeting in Jacksonville, that means I've got to travel on Wednesday, but yeah. That's part and parcel of just what we do anyway. And I think opportunities like this are significant, they're important, because we are a group of cooperating Baptist churches. Mm-hmm. And so what that means is that churches are willing most of the time to share their leadership for a larger kingdom purpose. But it doesn't take a ton of extra time. Again, it's not like I'm having to run the Florida Baptist Convention.
Right.
What I have to do is keep up with the events of the Florida Baptist Convention, provide what little wisdom or insight that I may have, be an encouragement to our executive director, be an encouragement to the officers of the Florida Baptist Convention. The president of the Florida Baptist Convention basically is charged with the responsibility of running the annual meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So whoever that is has to come up with the theme and put the program together, and then he kind of represents, he becomes kind of the, in one sense, a public face of the Florida Baptist Convention as its elected president. But basically the big responsibility there is to develop and organize and run the annual meeting. Mm-hmm. The president of the State Board of Missions, which I was elected to, is responsibility for keeping up with the business affairs and the ministry affairs of the Southern Baptist Convention. We oversee the budget of the Florida Baptist Convention. We oversee church planting efforts of the Florida Baptist Convention. When churches need financial help, it's the State Board of Missions that typically grants that, whether it's in the form of a loan or a grant or whatever the case might be. And then if there are motions made at the state meeting, for example, as was the case last year, there was a motion made to amend the Constitution. Well, that's immediately referred to the State Board of Missions for review.
Okay.
And it's the State Board of Missions who recommends back to the Florida Baptist Convention what to do with that, whether it is in good standing or whether there's a better way to maybe approach the issue. So you deal with denominational issues in the state, you deal with financial issues in the state, church planting issues in the state. You oversee the personnel of the Florida Baptist Convention. So a lot of stuff associated with it, but I have already served 2 years on the State Board of Missions, so I'll be going into my third year of what can be a total of 6 years, and I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I just enjoy kind of being in the loop and kind of being a part of what's happening and being in the know, so to speak.
Yeah.
I think that has a lot of advantages, and being able to speak into issues too as they come up. So this year I'll be responsible for leading those meetings and kind of keeping the cats together, so to speak, for at least a year. Maybe the typical term is a 2-year term.
It's a 2-year term, typically. Okay.
Well,
it's 1 year, but then you can go a second.
You can
term.
go a second
Okay.
year. That's right.
Okay.
And
Excellent.
then after that's done, I'll still have time remaining on the state board, and we'll continue
To stay involved.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Well,
So at any rate, there's that.
That's
but,
awesome.
You know, Stephen Rummage, I appreciate him and his confidence. He's our state executive director, and he asked at our August meeting if I would consider that. He doesn't name it. There's a 6-person team of outgoing members of the state board that function as a kind of a nominating team,
Mm-hmm.
and he works with them. But he came to me and asked if I might consider that, and then I talked with the nominating team about that and felt led to do it. And so there it is.
very good.
So be president of the State Board of Missions in Florida for at least a year, and Lord willing, next couple of years.
That's awesome. On behalf of Hillcrest, I think that's fantastic. We think you're an outstanding leader here. We're grateful for what you give to our church here,
Thank
but
you.
just to represent on the state level and just to be recognized for that. I think it's an honor, I think well deserved, and we're glad you get to do that.
Well,
We're happy
everybody's
for you.
been sending along their congratulations, and you know, I don't know whether to accept congratulations or condolences before it's all said and done. Hopefully it'll be a nice, quiet, smooth season ahead, and we won't have to navigate a storm along the way. Hopefully not.
Nah, you'll be good. Great man to lead.
I appreciate
We're
that.
happy
Thank
for you.
you.
Very good. Let's talk Hebrews.
Yeah.
Get into some persistence.
Let me say, first of all,
Go
I
ahead.
appreciate Dustin Scott being able to step up. I had actually planned to be here a week ago Sunday when I was not here.
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing quite a bit of traveling. Judy and I took a Thursday, Friday, Saturday to go up to Birmingham like 3 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Came back on Saturday evening after spending 2.5 days or so with him. We hadn't seen our boy in a while.
Yeah.
And then got back. And then the following Thursday, I flew up to Nashville to see my mother, who I hadn't seen in several months, because I knew the next available time I had was sometime in January or early February. And then you get into weather, and that makes traveling a little bit tricky. So I decided to go on up and see her Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Then got into that whole government shutdown airport delay, and it got delayed coming back.
Yeah.
But I was wise enough on Monday, before I left to go to Nashville a couple of weeks ago, to call Dustin and said, "You wouldn't want to take the pulpit next Sunday, would you? After having thought about this could get dicey." And you know, like all of our pastors, they jump on opportunities, and he said a quick yes, and so I appreciate his willingness to do that, because I didn't get home until Saturday evening and was wiped out by the time I did, and then we had to turn right around. So when I got home, first thing we did was empty the suitcase in the laundry room, because we had to leave the next morning to go to Orlando, and we were driving through a rainstorm most of the way. And so it made for a very quick turnaround. And so at any rate, appreciate his willingness to do that, but really was glad to be back in the pulpit on Sunday.
Yeah, it was good too. I think we were glad that you were back. Dustin's awesome. I think you need to order him to come and sit on the podcast, because he said he won't do that, but we're going to get him in the chair before too long. We're going to make him do it.
I think we should make him do it.
We'll make him do it, Mr. President. We'll make him do that.
Yeah.
So. But no, we're back. We're in Hebrews 12 now.
Yeah.
And so
about to wind it up.
I'm going to let you slide a little bit, because you could have gone for months on Hebrews 11. I mean, you could have broken down every one of those names.
I hope to be able to do some extended teaching in Hebrews 11 on Wednesday night.
Yeah.
Where we can go through those little vignettes of faith.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to extend this particular series, because we've been in it much of the year. So that's why we kind of did just a couple of messages. We did the introduction to faith that comes at the beginning, and then what I asked Dustin to do was to pick a vignette, pick one to give as an example of kind of the way the rest of that chapter reads. And he could have done any of them. If I had done it, I told him, if I would have done it, I was preparing to do Abraham.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of the one that has the most text given to him.
Yeah.
But he wanted to do Abel, and I'm glad he did, because I thought he preached a very fine message.
Excellent.
On Abel that was just terrific. So, we may come back, circle back, perhaps even sometime in 2026 while this is still fresh, and kind of walk our way a little slower through Hebrews 11.
Yeah. Yeah, it was very good. And not one I would have picked either. I thought Abel was an interesting choice. Did it really well. All right, we got to get to it, because we're almost out of time. All right, Hebrews 12. This is the familiar, surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses.
Great passage.
Excellent passage.
Yeah.
Clarify, and he did this on Sunday, but clarify, who are the witnesses, and what do you mean they're watching me? What are you talking about?
Well, and here's the thing. The witnesses, the first part of your question is the easy part. The second part is a bit more mysterious, and it's difficult to put your finger on it exactly. The witnesses are the reference, the reference in Hebrews 11.
Okay.
Plus all of the other great members of the faithful, you know. And that it's connected by the word therefore that begins chapter 12. So he goes through chapter 11, gives us a definition of faith, gives us the absolute requirement of faith, and then gives us this litany of heroes of the faith who made it all the way to the finish line. Period. Chapter 12, therefore. So that's an immediate reference to what's just come before, right? All these great heroes of the faith. Therefore, which interestingly means that Hebrews 12, 1 through 3 could just have easily been included in chapter 11.
Yeah.
See, the words of the letter to the Hebrews are inspired, but the chapter divisions are not necessarily inspired.
Yeah.
They're put there by editors sometime later. And so, you know, the Hebrews 12, 1 through 3 could have easily been the conclusion of Hebrews 11, but it also serves well as the introduction to Hebrews 12, because it is a continuation of the thought process all the way through chapter 12. So that cloud of witnesses represents people that are mentioned the Old Testament heroes of the faith in chapter 11. Plus, I think you can include other great heroes of the faith as well, who were not mentioned. He didn't have time to mention everybody, but the Old Testament is chock full of very faithful people, heroes of the faith. And they surround us, the writer to the Hebrews says, in order to be encouragers to us. They've gone, they're not with us anymore, and he references them as if they are populating the sky, serving, to use his words, as witnesses, right? Martyreo. We get our word martyr from it.
Okay.
And so that's what a martyr is. A martyr is a witness unto death.
Okay.
Someone who is uncompromising in their faith, right? Well, that's all those people. They weren't all put to death for their faith, but they serve as witnesses. And I think that's the primary use of the word witnesses. What are they there for? They're there as examples for us.
Okay.
Their life of faith is an example to spur us on to continue the race that they ran until their life was over. And that's what the writer of the Hebrews is trying to encourage his readers to do. Don't turn back. Jesus is better. What you going to go back to? You're going to go back to nothingness. You're going to go back to futility. And if you give up in the middle of the race and turn and go back, if you bail, you're going to demonstrate something about your faith, namely that it really is not faith at all. Yeah. That it's a lip service faith. And there is such a thing as a superficial faith. A lot of people make a profession of faith who don't possess faith. They're going along with the crowd, or maybe they're going to church to get a feel-good experience or to make them feel better about themselves. But it really, nothing about Christ has changed their life or changed their priorities. And Jesus said that, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. And part of doing the will of the Father is staying in the race until this life is concluded. So he's pushing them forward as a means of them revealing the authenticity of their faith. It's like the old preacher used to say, if you fizzled before the finish, there was a fatal flaw in your faith from the first. Yeah. So you had a defective faith or a deficient faith. And the writer can't know whether or not the faith of all of his readers, wherever they were, probably a church in a prominent and significant city, Ephesus, Corinth, or someplace like that. He can't know if all of their faith is genuine. But what he can do is help them to know how it's genuine. And a part of that is by persisting in the faith and enduring in the faith, persevering in the faith. Yeah. And he begins by reminding them, others have gone before you that had it just as hard, if not more difficult than you. And they didn't give up, flawed though they were.
So these are examples of the faith. The witness that they're giving is their testimony of their endurance to the end, not necessarily witness in the way we use it as someone who has observed something or is seeing something.
No, that's the big question.
It's not my grandma Irene watching me now.
No, I think that's less certain.
Yeah.
Now, might they be? Maybe. We'll probably talk a little bit about that when we get to our series on heaven in 2026.
Okay, mark your calendar.
Do our love, because people ask that a lot, don't they?
Oh, yes. And usually at funerals.
And there are a lot of people that talk to their relatives that have gone on before as if they're having a conversation. Well, that's kind of mysterious. I certainly don't think you ought to pray to anybody but the Lord Jesus, but. Or to the Father through the Lord Jesus, to be sure. But there is a question about who sees what. You've got the story that Jesus told about the rich man and Lazarus, and there is some awareness in that story. I just think you have to be very careful about reading into the Scripture beyond what's in the Scripture.
Yeah.
And so are they witnesses in the sense of fans in a stadium who have come to, cheer on their favorite players and to encourage them to score the touchdown or to hit the base hit or to score the winning goal or whatever, to make the three-point basket? I think that's less certain. Mm-hmm. The Lord may give them privy, but I think that's less of what the author is trying to communicate. What I think is more important is that each of the faithful and others that aren't mentioned serve as witnesses in the sense of their giving testimony to what a life of faith is supposed to look like.
Okay.
Namely, it makes it to the finish line. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I have many follow-ups, but we'll save them for Heaven series because I think that lends to follow-up discussion and questions. But I think that's important. But I appreciate your answer with what this is. And I think so too. Your third point on Sunday: know your specific assignment.
Yeah.
Kind of along those lines. Do I have a detailed call assignment from God? And if so, if I miss that mark or don't obey or misstep, what does that do for the plan of God then and His kingdom purpose? If my call is that specific, can I miss it?
Well, I think that you can miss God's best, but I think that if your heart is right, you shouldn't be too preoccupied about that.
Okay.
I think that's the key. The key is to be so focused in on the Lord that you're primarily concerned with the race that God wants you to run. And not be so preoccupied, and this is what I tried to bring out, not be so preoccupied with what God is or is not doing in the life of other people. Especially when you're going through moments like these Hebrew Christians were, where life is, just challenging, difficult, you're frustrated, things aren't working out like you had hoped that they would, you're in the midst of very challenging seasons. It's very easy to divert your gaze and to focus on what you think God should be doing, or to focus on what God is or is not doing in the life of other people. What I think is important is to run the race that God has marked out for you. Now, I wouldn't get so preoccupied in terms of trying to figure out specifics so that your weak need about not making a sound decision in the will of God. You should be seeking the Lord, trying to make the best decisions that you can. But I think there are lots of ways that people can go and lots of things that people can do and that would be honoring to the Lord. Mm-hmm. I think that the key is just to stay focused on Jesus and what He's trying to teach you in this life, how He's trying to grow your faith specifically, and not divert your gaze away from Jesus. And the author makes that clear, fixing your eyes on Jesus, not on your neighbor, not on other people in your family, not on your circumstances even. And that's the biggest mistake probably that we make, is we tend to fixate on our circumstances, or we tend to fixate on what's wrong.
Yeah, or what hurts.
And when you do that, when your obstacle becomes bigger than God, that's when you succumb to despair. And that's when you'll become winded and perhaps even sidelined. And that's when you begin to doubt, right? Yeah. So you don't even fixate on the problem. You want to stay fixed on the Lord. Fixing your eyes on Jesus. I can't remember exactly the word that the ESV uses. I think it may be the word
looking to Jesus.
Looking to Jesus, which is probably not strong enough.
Yeah.
I mean, it is looking to Jesus, but the idea there is set your gaze on Jesus. Fixate on Jesus, the author and the perfecter of our faith. And then he says not only looking to Jesus, the next thing he says is consider Him. So look to Jesus and consider Jesus. And I didn't have time to go into that yesterday, but the word consider is an accounting word. It means to count it up. Count up everything Jesus went through. log it, you know,
Yeah.
study it, dissect it, consider everything that Jesus went through. And he, you know, kind of glosses in a summary fashion, who endured such hostility from sinful men, so that you may not grow weary and lose heart. Consider Jesus. That may have been certainly as important as looking to Jesus, but you know, looking to Jesus carries this idea of a glance. Consider Jesus carries the idea of focused study, you know?
Yeah.
Count it up. Count up everything Jesus went through on your behalf. The difficulties, the slanders, the jeering. Yeah, he had crowds at the beginning, but at the end he had 120
Yeah.
that had stuck with him. Where'd they all go? The jeering, the mocking, the scorn, you know. And Jesus said he despised the shame or scorned the cross. In other words, you know, he kind of snorted at it. Bring it on.
I was going to ask you about the despising word, because that's the one that hit me yesterday when you preached it. And you know, I've read the passage, I know the passage, I'm familiar with it. And you said despising the shame. I thought, man, what a powerful term, a way to say that, of putting it in that perspective of what he did. He
Did you ever see
despised it.
Did you ever see that? Yeah. Did you ever
It's
see?
not just he didn't like it.
Yeah.
He was,
but it has to do with the fact that he was willing to. Did you ever see the movie The Perfect Storm?
yes. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
George Clooney.
So they're at sea,
Yeah.
and they're at the very end. The monster wave is coming toward them, and he's got nothing but to just throttle
Go
up,
through.
and he just goes right at it.
Yeah.
And he knows this is a tsunami that's going to overwhelm this ship. And yet, you know, it was kind of, and he just gave it full throttle and went at it, and he went up, and, you know, it ended up capsizing the ship. But that's kind of how Jesus approached the cross. You know, it's a tsunami of sin coming at me, none of which I committed. And yet, I'm going headlong into it. And so the writer says, look, you're running the race, you're hot, you're winded.
Yeah.
Would you consider?
Think about what Jesus did.
Would you consider Jesus?
Yeah, you're having a hard time right now.
Consider him who endured such shame from sinful men and scorned the cross.
Which makes his statement of if there's any other way,
Yeah.
let this cup pass from me. And
He knew the tidal wave was coming. And so, that's what we have to consider. And if you learn to have that kind of fixation, that kind of consideration on Jesus in your abiding relationship with Him, you'll be able to continue the race until the very end. We're going this coming Sunday into the next paragraph, which has to do with discipline. Well,
we don't like that word, Pastor.
no, we don't.
If you could change
and
that.
the writer's going to say, he's going to use the word endure again. Endure your hardships as discipline from the Lord. So we're going to talk more about that on Monday, or on Sunday, this coming Sunday. But the whole chapter 12 is this running application of this rich theology. Jesus is better, Jesus is better, don't go back, Jesus is better, Jesus is better. Now he's turning his attention in a very practical way. Therefore, persist, endure, stay with it, keep running, and over again. Pursue holiness. He'll get to that later in chapter 12. And so he's urging, Coach Hebrew, I call him, he's urging the team on, and he's the closest thing to a coach we've got in the Bible. It's just constant encouragement. Prove your faith genuine. Don't give up. You're winners, not losers in Jesus. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. That's a pretty good commentary in a nutshell on what the letter to the Hebrews is all about.
Seems like Paul wrote that sentence.
Paul wrote that, but
A lot of similarities there.
it's not Paul, Jim.
Might be.
Well, it might be. I would eat my words if it were. I would be the first to say you were right.
I just think it's an interesting conversation to have with you.
Paul was never shy about introducing himself by name.
Well,
in any of
we'll have
the
that
rest
discussion.
in any of the
maybe
letters.
maybe we'll set aside a day to discuss that on this podcast. Anyway, we're out of time today. Man, I typically start these podcasts with you, and I want to kind of just hit the highlights and give you a chance to explain. And I always end up getting deep in these because, again, I'm reminded how it speaks to me. It's so powerful, and whatever we're walking through, whatever our people are walking through, you made the point on Sunday. You're told to look to the people who were sawn in half, who had their skin ripped off them, who were crucified.
That's the way he ends chapter 11.
And that, like you said, maybe it ain't so bad right now for you. Maybe you can endure this thing that you're going through.
The guys that he calls by name, except for Abel did lay down his life as a faithful person. But most of the other people, they lived long lives and died natural deaths and things of that nature. But then he gets to that ending in chapter 11, and he talks about all these martyrs, who died in the worst kind of way because of their faith. And he uses that, I think, as a way to, as strange as it may sound, as a way to encourage these Hebrews who are undergoing persecution. Not to that degree, though. So he brings those who have suffered greatly to the point of death. Then at the beginning of chapter 8, he brings in Jesus, who suffered to the point of death. And then he's going to say, I think it's in either verse 4 or 5, he's going to say, but you have not struggled to the point of shedding blood.
Right. In your struggle against sin, you have not yet resisted to the point of shedding your blood.
So it could be a lot worse, people, He said, he points out those who've really suffered extreme pain and persecution. And he says, not to minimize what you're going through, but it's not as bad as it has been for some. And so consider these models and stay faithful. You can do it. And here's how.
Fix your eyes on Jesus. Very good. Well, thank you again for your time. I don't have a problem. I understand why you all ask us all to call you Mr. President now.
No.
I don't think we need to play Hail to the Chief every time you walk into the room, but we will continue to do that.
I will rebuke you. What's interesting is, just as an aside, we did elect a new president of the Florida Baptist Convention, and it's my friend Brian Stowe, who's the pastor at First Baptist Church of Plant City, Florida, just to the east of Tampa. And Brian and I went to seminary together.
Oh, wow.
And so we were seminary classmates. And at the beginning of our pastoral ministry, we served in Southwest Missouri together. He was in South Springfield. I was in the Branson area for about 18 months. And then he was called to Georgia. I stayed for several more years in Missouri before being called here. Then he was called from Georgia to Plant City. So he came to Florida. We've been Florida Baptist pastors now for about 8 years together. And I worked with his search committee. They called me as a reference, and it was a great pleasure to be able to recommend it. He's done a very fine job there. So he'll get to serve a 2-year term, and I'll serve a 2-year term, and we'll get to sit at the same table in those board meetings because he's an ex officio member of the state board. So it's kind of a cool thing that I get to serve with a friend of mine, and here in the autumn of our ministry career, so to speak.
Sounds like a winning ticket.
I hope so.
I think we'll take it.
We'll look forward to it.
Well, good for you. We're very proud and glad for you as well. So thank you again. Thank you again for joining us, and we hope to see you Sunday. If not Sunday, of course, you can catch us online if you can't make it here in person. And we always hope to see you again on The Locker Room. God bless you.